electric. You can't use your tablets to do work unless they're charged, right? We had that, that's common sense. So the electrical signal, until we get to the nervous system, the electrical signal starts in the motor neuron. That is a fancy term to say it is a neuron that innervates, communicates with muscle, somatic muscle, skeletal muscle. It's the only one of the 3 different types that is voluntary. Okay? So this electrical event called an action potential comes down the axon. And do you remember what I said about calcium? When calcium comes into a cytoplasm, great things happen. It's the molecular switch. In the terminal boutons, synaptic terminus, axonal terminus, whatever, synaptic knob, that electrical current leads to calcium coming into the cytoplasm of the neuron. That is the light switch to have the synaptic vesicles fuse with the neurolemma, fancy term for neuron cell membrane, and exocytose, vomit acetylcholine into the synaptic cleft. The synaptic cleft, as we reviewed many times today, is one of 5 parts of a neuromuscular junction. The acetylcholine diffuses across the synaptic cleft and reaches the motor end plate, which consists of 2 things. Those 2 things are also part of the neuromuscular junction. The sarcolemma, which is a fancy term for the muscle cell membrane, and the receptors that are embedded in it. The acetylcholine binds to the receptor. This starts an electrical event in the muscle. Again, the muscle can't do work until it has an electrical event. So now it has started this electrical event called an action potential. That electrical current goes across the sarcolemma and down the T-tubules. The T-tubules are invaginations of the sarcolemma. On either side of them, we have terminal cisternae, swollen endings of the sarcoplasmic reticulum, shown here on this model. Terminal cisternae, T-tubule, terminal cisternae, 3 T's in a row. Together they create a triad. This is still the excitation phase. That electrical current goes down the T-tubules, and on either side, those terminal cisternae, they open to allow calcium to diffuse out of the sarcoplasmic reticulum and into the cytoplasm. That marks the beginning of excitation, contraction, coupling. Think C for coupling, C for calcium. It has to unite the electrical event to the mechanical. Calcium is the molecular switch to do that. So the calcium diffuses out of the sarcoplasmic reticulum. It takes time to diffuse out. It takes time for it to find the sensor of the thin filament. Now let's review. What is a thin filament? Is it just a molecule of actin? Absolutely not. Is actin a thin filament on its own? No, it is not. Absolutely not. 3 things create a thin filament. Actin, tropomyosin, and troponin. Which one of those was Lord wants to be? That's it. Which one was Archie trying to cover her up all the time? Tropomyosin. And which one was the sensible one, even though Archie always called her a dingbat? Oh, Archie! Which one? Troponin. Edith. She's sensible. Why? She's got 3 subunits. She is very rooted to her daughter, Actin, very rooted to her husband, Archie, but she has a 3rd subunit where she senses when there needs to be some power stroking. Remember? Power stroking, that's a real term, but we need Gloria exposed. And Gloria and Mike, the thick filament, because what I drew on the board, we can all agree it definitely looks phallus. Remember that? Okay. They want to do what? A lot of power stroking. That's what a lot of newlyweds want to do. And we've all agreed that the thick filament, being the male part, is always, what's the word? Cocked and ready to go. A real term. I know it sounds very sexual. Of course it does. It sounds that. So, calcium comes out, binds to the sensible one of the subunits of troponin, Edith. And that's when Edith says, oh, Archie, let's go for a walk. And the fancy term for that is troponin and tropomyosin have a conformation change. That means they shift their positions. Gloria is now exposed. Once she is exposed, who's cocked and ready to go? Myosin. And it binds and then power strokes. That as soon as actin is exposed, that marks the beginning of contraction. And the power stroking will keep occurring as long as there's ATP. Because in order for the myosin heads to disengage, a new ATP molecule must bind. The myosin heads slump off. They hydrolyze the ATP to recock. We got to set that catapult, remember, that takes energy. And as long as actin is exposed, this will keep repeating. This is the sliding filament theory. And as you can see on this model, we have the thin filaments being pulled towards the M line, the middle of the sarcomere. The H and I bands, H zone, I band, pretty much disappear on a full contraction. Hi! Don't forget that, H and I. What do you need for relaxation? We forget that is a mechanical event as well. We forget that. You need the following things for relaxation. One, you need the neuron to stop having its electrical event so that it stops releasing acetylcholine. The acetylcholine that was already released in the cleft must be destroyed. What's the enzyme that destroys it? Acetylcholinesterase. Yes. Capital A, capital C, little h, capital E. Acetylcholinesterase. We need calcium to be resequestered. We need to put it away, pick up your mess, go back to the sarcoplasmic reticulum. We need ATP. We need ATP because it takes energy to put calcium back, but also ATP so that the myosin heads can slump off and get ready for the next time, right? So we need those things to happen in order for relaxation to occur. In the 90s, there was a terrorist attack. Didn't I tell you this story? Okay, so they used sarin gas. That is an acetylcholinesterase inhibitor, permanent inhibitor. By that I mean, physiologically, you would not live long enough before it wore off. I mean, it will wear off, but you'll be dead. You need medicinal help, and we do have medicines that can tease it away from the acetylcholinesterase. So acetylcholinesterase is not destroyed by sarin gas, rather sarin gas binds if is acetylcholinesterase. It covers it. And that means the enzyme cannot get to acetylcholine, it's trapped. We have medicine that can pull the sarin gas away, freeing acetylcholinesterase to do its job. Sarin gas is not the only acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. It is not the only one. There's some things called DFPs, diisofluorophosphates, organophosphates, DFPs. Why do you care? I have a garden, I work hard in my garden, and I would like to eat the produce I am growing. Not the bugs, not the rodents, me. Me. I am not opposed to using a good pesticide. And then there's a cautionary tale on the back of those bottles saying, please do not administer during windstorms. And it's windy. Why? It'll blow in your face and you'll breathe that. It's like breathing sarin gas. Yeah, so you have to be careful with those things. Organophosphates are all around you. Be careful. Read the label. Do you know how to read? I'm being facetious, of course. Okay, so I will shut up, giving you some time. I will clean up for you so that you can study, okay? All right, study.